Hey guys, Jim here from Drink a Beer Play a Game, and today we are taking a look at Kirby's Block Ball, a fantastic Kirby spin-off on the Game Boy, which is also the August 2021 highlight for Yokoi Kids, the Game Boy of the Month club that once a month spotlights a game from the classic Game Boy library. So they let me pick it this month. I love me some Kirby on the Game Boy, so let's take a look. Originally released in Japan in late 1995, Kirby's Block Ball was developed by HAL Laboratory and Nintendo R&D 1. At its time of release, it was a Game Boy exclusive, though it did eventually get ported to 3DS. So this game is an Arkanoid Breakout kind of clone. Basically, you have a paddle, you turn into a ball, and you kind of bounce around to destroy all the blocks. Pretty simple concept, but they add a lot here to spice it up a bit. When it comes to the graphics, it's pretty good, but it's still somewhat lacking. So for being such a late release for the Game Boy, I guess I kind of expected more. Now, given the original Game Boy, you kind of have to have bland backgrounds with almost, nothing on them because of the limitations of the Game Boy screen. So as far as being a game you can look at, it looks perfectly fine, and it does have some Super Game Boy enhancements that you can see when using either a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Player. You get a couple little cutscenes, but the weird thing is, all the cutscenes are the exact same. So, unlike Kirby's Pinball Land, where you could have a bunch of different cutscenes for reaching different scores, yeah, if you just reach the borderline for your points, you get the same cutscene every time, so that's kind of disappointing. And for the type of game it is, being a block-breaking base game, it's not going to really wow you with graphics, but what you get here is perfectly fine, if not a little disappointing for the time it came out. The sound in the game's really good though. Again, it's a little surprising because there aren't as many different music tracks as you would expect. For the most part, you hear the same tracks, whether it's playing the actual levels, the bonus stages, or the boss fights. Everything just kind of repeats. But what you get here is really well composed. Again, I'm not enough of a Kirby expert to know if these were lifted from any of the other Kirby games, but if they weren't, they fit right into the universe. The sound effects are fine too. Again, they're all pretty much lifted right from Kirby, so you can't really go wrong there. So I have no complaints as far as sound effects goes, but yeah, I guess I just would have expected a little bit more. As far as control goes, it's basically perfect because it's a very simple game. So for the most part, you're going to be moving your paddles left and right using the D-pad, but you also have paddles on the sides in a lot of stages, so you move them up and down. So you actually wind up learning how to juggle, controlling the ones left and right and up and down, especially when your ball just starts going crazy, or if you have multi-ball, or any other of the different power-ups. The B button will allow Kirby to use a special power in the levels that allow it, and the A button will basically expand the paddle, which, if you time it right, basically gives you a super shot with Kirby. So it allows you to take one hit on the spikes without dying, and it also allows you to bash through some of the stronger blocks. So learning to master the timing on this is essential for progressing in this game. But outside of that, it is a super simple yet super effective control scheme, so I have absolutely no issues with it. So as far as the gameplay goes, if you know Breakout or Arkanoid style games, you know what to expect. You basically hit a ball with a paddle to break all the blocks. But where this game sets itself apart is the fact that it incorporates all these boss fights, all these enemies, all these power-ups, and all these just different little powers from the Kirby universe, which is very cool. So before the start of every level, you get a little cutscene that shows you what the special gimmick of each level is going to be, which is nice, so, it walks you through what you're going to be doing, basically. Each of the main 10 levels is split up between 5 stages, so the first 4 stages you're trying to build all the points that you can, and the final stage is the boss fight of the level. The boss fights, for the most part, are super simple. Even once you get to level 10, the boss fights are honestly the least of your problems when it comes to this game as far as difficulty goes. I will say though, once you beat level 10, you might think, oh, I guess I'm done the game. Because there is a secret 11th level where you finally fight King Dedede, and I have not gotten to this point yet because of one simple thing. So every level has what they call a borderline, which is a goal for points that you have to set, and once you reach that, you get a little flag on the world which shows you basically completed it. So you need to complete all the borderlines for all 10 stages before you can get to that 11th level. And that is harder than you think. So as I'm playing this game, I basically thought I was blowing through it thinking, this is a pretty short and easy game. I got through it in about 2 hours. Alright, it's okay. But I got the false ending, as you can see here. And I am trying to work my way to get to that point where I can get to DDD, but I'm about halfway there, but it just gets so frustrating. And one thing you really need to do is to master the special events in each stage. So if you hit a certain power-up, it'll change all the blocks to where you can easily pass through them. And if you get all of them done in a certain time limit, you get massive point bonuses for how many blocks you beat in that time and how quickly you do it. And this is the biggest way that you're going to get to those borderlines. But it can be so frustrating so many times where you're stuck with one little piece left that you can't kill as the time runs out, and you realize that you basically just have to start the entire level over again because there's no point. You're not going to reach that border score unless you perfect all these in certain levels. So, yeah, that also leads into the replayability because you're going to be retrying these levels a lot to hit those borderlines so that you can get to that final DDD stage. Now, as far as I know, when you beat DDD, that's basically the end of the game. But it does give you 3 game slots, so if you want to do it 3 different times, that's where more of your replayability comes in. But if you just do it once and feel satisfied, that's basically it for you. I do gotta say though that I do love how each level really makes sure that you have to use all the different powers. Basically, you have to perfect all the different skills of this game. I do wish it eventually came to a point where you needed to just juggle between them like a lot of other games will. You never get to that point, well, maybe doing DDD, I don't know, once again. But as far as the standard levels go, you never have to have that kind of thing. But still though, if you're a fan of this style of game with all these different powers and boss fights, it adds a lot to the genre, which is really cool. And as far as originality goes, it really comes from the combining. It's like Kirby's Pinball Land, where a pinball game is an original, and a Kirby game at this point was an original, but combining them together and using the gimmicks of each together, that's what makes it work. And again, this is pretty original for what it does. Not a lot of games really do the alleyway or breakout kind of spin-off. It's really cool to see Kirby, and he's a natural fit for it. So, when it comes to beer, I'm going to be pairing this with the Breakout IPA by the Klin Brewery. Now, this is a beer that comes from England, so I have not had a chance to get my hands on it yet, but, Breakout, Kirby's Block Ball, Arkanoid clone, you get it. Seems like a perfect fit. And really, IPAs are a good fit for games like this because the flavor will last in your mouth for a while as you try to go from level to level, and of course you can take a sip as you go from stage to stage before hitting those boss fights. So if you can get your hands on this, give it a shot. I know I will. So at the end of the day, what do I think of Kirby's Block Ball? I think it's actually a surprisingly good title. I'm a fan of Breakout and Arkanoid style games, so this is going to be up my alley anyway, but just adding in all the different Kirby power-ups into boss fights just adds another level of gameplay to an otherwise, what really could be a stale genre if you don't do it right. Looking at you, Alleyway. And on eBay, it's still reasonably priced. It's between 15 and 20 bucks at this point, which is a little high for a Yokoi Kid Spotlight, but you can get it on the 3DS eShop for a couple of bucks, or you can just emulate it for free. But no matter how you get around to playing this game, you should definitely check it out at least once, especially if you're a fan of the genre. You'll probably wind up loving it. And that'll do it for today, guys. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, leave a comment below. It really helps the page, really gets more eyes onto what we do here at DBPG. And as always, check the links to our other Yokoi Kids videos, our other video game reviews, and check out another Kirby spin-off I did on the Game Boy for Yokoi Kids with Kirby's Pinball Land. It's another fantastic spin-off. So, until next time, guys, cheers.